When I decided to make fear my friend, it was not an easy decision. Making fear my friend meant I couldn't run away anymore. That I had to listen. That I had to understand. It was much easier running away. It was much easier half listening, half shrugging, and pushing everything down once the rare chat was over. But signing this agreement of friendship was merely the first step. I had to somehow help my fear. I had to take my fear's hand and walk it to the other side. I had to challenge my new friend and tell it honestly how wrong it was. That it was taking the wrong road. That it was taking itself, me, and everything and everyone around it into a dark hole. Fear told me stories of how it was unable, of how we were incapable, and how weak it made whomever it touched. Fear told me exaggerated stories of my past. Fear predicted unbelievable stories of my future. Fear never allowed an unblurred thought of the present. It was as if fear was attempting to recruit many to its dungeon-like dimension of being, where me and fear was all there was. Fear was that narcissistic friend that controlled me, that never let me think unless my thoughts quenched its thirst for greed, for control, and for spreading its own ideologies. You see, fear can be sneaky, it can be devious, and it can certainly control us if we are not aware of it. But fear can be a good friend. How many times did my fearful and anxious thoughts allow me to foresee a bad situation? But then again, how many more times have I been lied to believe that that is all there was, that my life wasn't more than what fear foresaw? Understanding our fear is just the start. Understanding our thoughts is just the start. Today, I challenge my fear. Today, I challenge my friend. And although fear is boasting about how many times it's won, how it's much more powerful, today, I beat fear. Welcome to episode 4 of Mindful Self-Indulgence. So we're in episode 4 of our podcast, Mindful Self-Indulgence. So how's everyone doing today? What's the weather like outside? It's same in good old Scotland. The 4 seasons in one day. We're getting cloudy skies, a bit of a chill outside, but usually weather kind of affects my mood. I don't know if anyone else finds that, but if I've got a nice day outside, I wake up and I feel really good. If I wake up and it's just cloudy and gloomy, I'm like, oh, I just cannot be fucked with today. And I don't know, recently I've been kind of trying to stay mindful about the things that I like about not the bad weather, but when the weather's like this, there's a certain crisp to the air, there's a certain beauty to the leaves, and there's a certain air of mystery as well that I also like. I mean, my brain, to a certain extent, is it adores chaos. Something about the chaotic existence of how we are. It's crazy to say that you like chaos, especially for someone like me who likes to know a plan for things. But there's something about chaotic things that pulls me, and I don't mean we live in a chaotic world. The world isn't structured. It's not fair. It's not right. We just live in a chaotic existence, and we try to make sense of it all whilst living our own life as well. And finding what motivates us and finding what our needs are and trying to fulfill our needs in our very short life. But going back to the weather thing, why is it that we always kind of look at the negatives when it comes to the weather? You know, when the sun's out, it's too hot, and when the clouds are out, you just can't be bothered. Because there is, just as I say that, the sun literally hit my face. It's like it goes from so cloudy to so sunny in a second. If anyone's listening and they live in Scotland, like, we deal with the most mental of weathers. And for people who are affected by the weather in Scotland, how do you find that? Like, because I find it nuts, you know, because you'll get up in the morning and it's cloudy and it's gloomy and you don't want to do anything, and you sit inside and you've set yourself that you're sitting indoors, and then the sun comes out, and sometimes that'll make me go, alright, this is great, the sun's out, let's go out and do something. And then sometimes I'm like, well, I've set myself for doing nothing, but now I want to get up and do something, beat myself up. And it's just staying mindful about, you can find the beauty in everything. I find the beauty in the sun. I find the beauty in the rain. There's great things about both. You know, when you sit there and the sun touches you, it's gorgeous. The relaxation you feel, the vitamin D that you're getting, but also, and this sounds cheesy as hell, but when you walk through the rain, I love that. I love when it's just a sprinkly night, not too much rain, not the kind of rain that pelts down and hurts you, but you know, that sprinkly rain that you walk through and you just get touched by just little raindrops, and you think your brain just wanders away and it wanders off. And I feel like at that moment, that's when I feel most creative. That's when a lot of ideas come to me, when I sit and just look outside a window and it's raining. Something about the rain and something about the water just chills me right out, and it just allows my creative juices to flow. Even more than the sun just makes me want to sleep, to be honest. But I adore the sun. I adore waking up and it just being light outside. So I'm sure this is something that affects a lot of people. So give me a message. Let me know how it affects you. I'm really interested to find out how it affects other people. Talking about messages as well, there's a lot of things that I want to start doing with the listeners of this show. I'd like to get our listeners more interacted with the show and interacted with what we're doing, because like I say, this is a collective journey. The way that I look at this podcast is that it is a collective journey. Just because I'm looking at something in the psychology field doesn't mean that it's the most important thing. There are other things that maybe I'm not even aware of, maybe I haven't even heard of. Just because something doesn't happen to me doesn't mean it doesn't happen to other people. And it's ignorant to live your life not understanding how the people around you, the people that you're interacting with. For me, the listeners of the show, it'd be ignorant of me not to understand what they're going through. Now, as you guys know, the last 4 episodes, I usually do start my podcast episode with one of my blog post readings. Just a little bit of content that I've written. And I know that I'm not going to have time to, unfortunately, sit and write that bit of content and think about what I'm going to write and do research about it every week or every second week, depending when the podcast is coming out, because I do want to work at other aspects of the podcast as well. So it would be great if you guys can start sending in content, blog posts, just stories, short stories, poems, songs, just things that are related to mindfulness, are related to mental health, are related to your journey, how you feel. Do you feel alone? Do you feel that people are around you? Do you feel that you're getting the help that you need? Do you feel that you're completely lost? Put that down into words. There's nothing better There's nothing better than letting your subconscious take over your mind and just writing everything down. And you can bin it. You can 100% bin it. But if you want someone to read it, do send it over. You'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us on Twitter. You'll find us on Instagram. I would prefer Facebook or Instagram, by searching Mindful Self-Indulgence or Mindful Self-Indulgence Podcast. Or you could email me at mindselfindulgence@gmail.com. And I would love to look through these. I would absolutely love to sit and sift through these. And if there is any content that really stands out, I would love to read it out at the start of the show, obviously giving full credit to whoever wrote it. Or if you would like to stay anonymous, that's okay too. That's absolutely fine. If you would like me to read it out, share the story and not mention who you are, that's okay as well. But get in contact with us via social media channels. We are looking for we're looking, like I said, for that kind of content, but I'm also looking for artwork. I would absolutely love if someone could maybe start putting the dark thoughts that go through our mind, the negative thoughts that go through our mind into art, and share it with us. That would be amazing. Someone who would maybe cartoonize some of our blog posts, our topics. I just want this portal to also be some sort of let out, some sort of way that we can talk to each other, not just with words, but with all sort of creative mediums and all sort of communication mediums. This shit fascinates me, to be honest with you. I love it. I love art. I'm not saying that I'm the most art understanding person in the world. I've never studied art and I can't draw to fucking save my life. But I appreciate the hell out of it. I appreciate the thought process. I appreciate the subconscious coming out, and I like to look at something and say, where does this actually come from? Even if I don't understand how it was portrayed, but where did it come from? Where is this person coming from? Because art tells a story. Art tells a huge story. So please share your art with us. Please share your content with us. Let me know if you're just sharing it just for sharing it, or if you would like me to read it out at the start of the podcast, or if you don't mind if I read it out at the start of the podcast. And I'll get back in contact with you guys, obviously, and make sure that everything's okay and that you are happy to be featured or for your work to be featured in the podcast. But this is a collective journey. And I'd love if people start taking it with me in a more sort of interactive way. I mean, you guys have been amazing so far. I mention this every week, but I cannot believe the amount of listens that I've gotten so far. Amount of different countries that are listening to my podcast. There's a lot of people that aren't within my friend and family group that are listening to this, and it's so humbling because it is an hour. You know, it's easy to maybe sit and listen to 2, 3, 4 minutes of work, or read a blog post. But to listen to an hour podcast, there is a lot of commitment from you guys, and there's a lot of time commitment from you guys, and it is really, really appreciated. But I'm glad that the content and information and the journey that I'm going through and that I'm putting out on this podcast is helping other people as well. Because that's how I felt when I listened to my first sort of mental health podcast. I thought this really helped me. It wasn't a psychologist. It was just someone chatting about their mental health. Just chatting about linking psychology to what they do every day. And somehow that made me go, oh shit, yeah, that's what happens with me. That's what I'm doing. This journey that I'm listening to is very similar to mine. So it's just quite cool for me to see that There's other people that are relating to this podcast, same as I related to the other podcasters that I was listening to myself. So yeah, thank you guys. So yeah, we'll go into the episode. I've been talking for 15 bloody minutes, and I haven't went into anything to do with the podcast or the topic. A gift of the gab, they say. So today's topic, we're going to continue on from last week, and we're going to kind of go into the mental health aspect of cognitive psychology and cognition, and just discuss how it does affect our mental health, because this podcast is aimed at people with mental health problems, and is well, not really, no, not at all, because I've mentioned it many times that whether you have mental health issues or whether you don't, you have to still take care of your mental health. It's still good to learn about your mental health. It's still good to learn about your psychology. It's still good to understand what's going on in your brain. Why is it that you get angry about certain things? Why is it that you're having these nasty thoughts about certain things? It might not affect you in a bad way now, but negative thoughts and negative feelings, and they're like having bad food every day. Right? So the first couple of days, maybe the first couple of weeks, you won't feel it so much. But after a while, it is going to affect your physical health. You are going to start having a problem. So even if you don't have a general mental health problem, but you're starting to stress out a little bit, or you're going into something that's going to be stressful, it's good to know how to deal with these things so that your brain doesn't start training itself that this is just the way that you think now. And this is just your automatic thoughts. So how does cognition link to mental health problems or social psychological problems? Now, we mentioned in the last episode that cognition is sort of the psychological perspective that we use to problem solve, that we use to interact sometimes, that we use to perceive. Now, perception and assumption and problem solving, when I say problem solving here, I'm talking about problem solving in your just day-to-day activity, just dealing with someone. Excuse me. Just dealing with someone in your life or in your social circles or in your work or just any sort of an event, right? You're trying to solve your way through life. Okay, so it's a very general use of problem solving here that I'm playing it. But your perception and your problem solving, they're strong things, because when you perceive something in the wrong way, or your perception is always negative, your mental health is going to suffer because of that. When, like we mentioned, when your negative thoughts are all there is, when fear is all there is, then your mindset is just going to get accustomed to that's all there is, to life. And that's going to result into anxious thoughts. It's going to result into depression. It's going to result into wanting to self-harm. It results in dealing with people in the wrong way. It results in sometimes it results in something I like to call, or not I like to call, but something that's called self-fulfilling prophecies. So when you react to something in the wrong manner, because you think that's what it is and your assumptions are wrong, then sometimes it's not that this was going to happen, but your actions has caused a chain of reactions that have led to what you thought was going to happen, that led to the negative thing that you thought was going to happen actually happening. You're stressing about something twice. Not only that, but you've actually caused the thing you've stressed about. So cognition is incredibly important, and the role that it plays within our thoughts, the way our brain works, and the way that we deal with things is unbelievable. It's It's probably one of the main things that would cause irrational depression and an irrational anxiety. You know, that anxiety and depression that you cannot explain. That fear that you don't really know why you're scared or why you're nervous. That sadness where you have no idea why it is that you're sad. You just woke up that way. Or it's just how you started feeling. Or that thing triggered you, but you have no idea why you overreacted so much. It's because in your head, your cognition has went from 0 and taken everything from 0 to 100. So our cognition is amazing. It's an amazing part of our mind. It can help us problem solve. It can help us react quicker and even more efficiently to like your day-to-day situations. But it can really betray us as well. It can make us assume and think we're doing the right thing when we're not really. So you may start having anxious or sad thoughts over something that you assume to be the case because of your short or long-term memories. Remember when we discussed that the last episode? Your short-term memories, they kind of go in, and then after training it becomes a long-term memory. So if you have a memory of, let's say, your parent, when you're going to them trying to tell them about something that happened in your school when you were 8, and they kind of they're busy with work and they shrug you off. If that happened to you once, then it's your short-term memory. But if you start getting shrugged off by other people as well, then you just think, well, in your long-term memory, that's what it is. And you get excited and you go and tell people about what you're excited about. They just shrug you off. They're not really that interested. That's an example, but it can be applied to almost anything. When it comes to the short-term and sort of the long-term memory. But when we discuss it in the terms of anxiousness, that's quite a good example. What happens is the thoughts that you start having because of your memories will turn into feelings of sadness or anxiety. So that will make us react in sadness or anxiety or anger, basically a way that we don't want to react. A way that probably our ideal self, we don't want to be sad. You know, usually we don't want to be sad. We don't want to be angry. We don't want to be nervous. That's not what happiness is. And life is really just a pursuit of happiness. So it's a pursuit of fulfilling your emotional and physical motivations. That's why we started off by discussing what motivates us. And I would recommend to go back to the first episode and listen to that, because nearly everything to do with our psychology is based on our emotional and our physical motivations. So when we react to things in a certain way because of our motivations, because of our needs, because the situation was emotional, and we do that in the wrong way, we need to challenge that. That's a really important aspect of psychology. There's a lot of people that you will talk to about something, and especially when it comes to like people viewing things from the sort of evolutionary perspective of psychology, where they go, well, it's just a psychology. It's in my DNA. It's who I am. And they expect you to just go, well, that's just that. But it's not. Because understanding psychology and evolving isn't saying this is what it is and that's that. Understanding psychology is for you to challenge your thoughts. What I'm doing here isn't so that I can tell people, you know, you're having these negative thoughts because that's what your psychology does, and that's the end of that. That's not the case. We can challenge our thoughts. We can challenge our brain. We can befriend these nasty thoughts and kind of have a conversation with them, have a debate with it, until your brain judges that there's something wrong in the concept that's constantly not negative. Because as unfair, as chaotic as life is, we can find internal peace. A lot of the chaos and a lot of the negativity is made by external factors, externals that were actually man-made. By finding our internal peace, by finding what we actually like, by challenging our own thoughts, it's a great way to sort of reset your mind. to start looking at the positives more than the negatives. So CBT is a technique that allows us to challenge our reactions and feelings towards certain personal and social events in order to tweak the thought process and perception. If you do this on a regular basis, you may be able to train your mind's automatic thought process and stop that from being a negative automatic thought and constantly being a negative automatic thought. So not it having to be positive. You don't have to turn into an optimistic person, but it's just living in the here and now. It's just living in your thoughts, living in what you're in the present, not thinking, oh, this happened to me years ago, or this has happened to me before, so this is what's always going to happen. And it's not saying, I'm going to work for this tomorrow, I'm going to work for that after. There's a lot of motivational sort of quotes and people who throw motivational things at you that say, you know, do it all for tomorrow. Everything's for tomorrow. Everything's for then. And I don't think that that's coming from a bad place. Not at all. You do have to work for your next day. Don't get me wrong. But if you're searching for happiness in the next day, if you're searching for happiness in the next process, you're not gonna find it. It just doesn't happen. Happiness is in the here and now. I mean, there was so many things when I was growing up. Finish school and then you'll be happy. Finish university and then you'll be happy. Do this part of the job and then you'll be happy. Do that and then you'll be happy. And it never worked out that way. You finish one thing, you go into the next thing. Or you finish one thing and you miss what you've done so much that you just go into a state of depression. So being mindful, being aware of the here and now, of the present, finding happiness in the here and now is the best way to actually be self-content. I personally love CBT. I love the concept of CBT because it's challenging. It's all about having certain negative thoughts, looking at them from different ways and challenging them in different techniques or through different techniques. That's why we call it cognitive behavioural therapy, because it does actually look at, when we mention the behavioural aspect of or perspective of psychology, it just looks at the way that you do things, and what it will do is that it will train you to do something else. So it's basically a therapy that looks at training your mind or training your cognition to change your perspective on life. So before we delve further into CBT, I want to talk about something called the ABC technique. ABC technique will help us a lot into sort of breaking down our thoughts, and it'd be good at kind of putting forward some examples on CBT as well. So the ABC technique was created by a psychology professor called Dr. Albert Ellis, and it was adapted by Dr. Martin Seligman, who was an American psychologist, and he adapted the theory and published the adapted theory in a book he published in 1990 called Learned Optimism. So ABC, what does ABC stand for? A, it's your activating event. Your activating event is basically your trigger event. Something has happened, or there's an event that has happened that has triggered an emotional reaction or an irrational reaction, or just some sort of very impulsive emotion and perception inside your body and inside your mind. Okay? So your beliefs, which is your B, what your beliefs are about this event, what your beliefs are about what's just happened there, how you perceived this event, or how you perceive this event is going to unfold. And then C is your consequences. And it's basically the emotions that you have due to this, the sadness that you feel, the anxiety that you feel, the nervousness that you feel, the consequences that you have placed it's not consequences that you placed on yourself, but your belief about this event has had a certain consequence on the way that you feel and on your emotions. So let's kind of give an example here. Let's say you're someone at work and you're supposed to give a report or some sort of work back to a client or your boss, right? And you've done your work, you've spent absolutely ages on it, and you're so happy with it. You think it's amazing. You think it's absolutely brilliant. You've done everything that you can, and you believe that when you take this to the client or send it to them or send it to your boss or whatever, that you're going to get so much praise that this person's going to turn around and be like, holy fucking shit, that was amazing. This is the dog's balls. Right? But you go in and you hand it to them and you look at it and you get an email back, or if you're doing it face to face, kind of look back at you and say, it's good, but there's a couple of bits here that I'd like you to change. There's a couple of bits and bobs here that just don't make sense, or the numbers aren't quite right, or this needs to change here, or, you know, I don't like it. My personal thought, I didn't imagine it going this way, so I'd like you to change it and put these changes in. And once you've done that, we'll submit it. And your brain just goes, oh shit. Now, I thought that was the most amazing thing ever. Now, in my head, that was amazing, and she didn't like it, so I'm a failure. So she hated it, so I'm probably going to get fired. She's seen through me, or my boss has seen through me, my client has seen through me. Fuck, what am I going to do? Or sometimes it's kind of the opposite. Sometimes it's, well, they don't understand. They'll never understand me. Right? And then the consequence is your feeling of anger about the client not understanding work, or not understanding your work, or your impatience with them not understanding what you tried to put forward, or that this person has seen something that maybe you've missed out, and you think, well, shit, they've seen right through me. They've seen my incompetence. How do I go from here? I'm going to get fired. So you start to feel nervous. You start to become a wreck. Everything that you do that day starts to become basically affected by how shit you feel. It becomes affected by how tired you are of just, like, of failing. Because in your head, that's what your head's telling you at that point. Your belief is, I failed, that's it, I failed. So you go work on another client's work, or you go do another bit of work or for something, or you go home in your social life. You're just not 100%. So other things have been affected by the way that you feel. And it's not the way that you feel. It's by your perception about a certain event being exaggerated, or not being correct, or being blown out of proportion. So your triggering or your activating event, it was handing in the report. And once you've handed in the report, you get an email back that the first line isn't positive, so your brain it's triggered. First line isn't positive, so you go from, your shoulders go right up, and you're ready, and you're ready for the fight. You're ready to kind of just go, nope, 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 or shit. Your belief is, fuck, they must think that everything that I do is awful, or that they're just stupid. I don't have to listen to them. It's because this is now about me. This is about my ego, because they must look at this and go, my whole work is shit, and my whole work isn't shit, mate. But that client isn't saying your whole work is shit. He's just saying that this little bit you can change it for me. I'm only dealing with you because I like your work, I like your business. So because I needed to change this little bit doesn't mean that all your work was rubbish. I mean, even looking at it from the client's perspective, just because one little bit wasn't done correctly doesn't mean that this person didn't put a lot of work into your work either. It's assuming that because one aspect didn't go as planned, that the whole thing has just completely went to shit. And the whole thing has been exaggerated, and the whole thing has turned into such a bigger fight and a bigger concept. It now becomes a matter of ego. It now becomes a matter of your own personal, am I going to win this? Am I going to let them walk all over me? When it was really just a simple change in work. It was just a simple note. It was a different eye seeing something in a different perspective. So your belief that either when it's their fault or it's my fault made you angry. It made you feel like this was a personal attack. It made you feel sad. It made you feel nervous. And because of that, that will have consequences on your life. But your main consequences is the feelings that you have. When we talk about a mental health perspective, it's the feelings of sadness. It's the feeling of anxiousness. It's the feeling of constant anger. Let's look at another example. So let's say, for instance, you are your other half, your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or your fiance, whatever it may be. They are at work and their work finishes at 5, and you've sent them a text at about 5 minutes to 5, just asking them to how they are, how their day's been. And usually, right, this is something that you do on a regular basis, and usually your other half replies to you as soon as they're out, on their walk to the car or while they're on the bus or whatever it is. Now, it's now 5:30, 5:45, and you haven't received a text message back. You haven't received a phone call back. So your anxious brain starts to wonder, what have I done wrong? Or what's happened to them? So the activating event would be, you've not received a text back. Your belief is, oh fucking hell, something's happened to them. Or, oh shit, what did I say now? What happened today? Why are they angry at me? Or are they dead? Has something happened to them? So there's two extreme examples of where your mind would go, but it does sometimes happen. So that's your belief, and that leads you to feeling extreme sadness. Let's say for example, the one where you think that you've done something wrong, that you've said something when you were texting them earlier during lunch or last night before you went to sleep, and they're now not wanting to reply to you. They're now angry at you. They're now kind of giving you the silent treatment. And your brain starts going to a million things. What have I done wrong? Well, fuck him then. He doesn't, he's just angry for the sake of being angry. I bet you he's talking to someone about me. I bet you he's sitting chatting to someone about me. I bet you he's sitting bitching to someone about me. And your anxious thoughts start taking over until you start feeling really, really sad. And then you're so sad that you suddenly become really, really angry, and you're like, well, fuck them then. I don't want to hear from them. Now, it's very likely, very, very likely, that while all this is going in your head in the space of 30 minutes, 40 minutes, this person's just had to do a little bit extra work, so can leave at 5 exactly, like they usually do. Or that they met a colleague who was telling them something about maybe someone in their family passing away, so it'd be very rude to bring your phone out at that point and text. And then they get the message and they reply straight away. And in that moment, your brain goes, oh, I was so silly. Oh, that was just stupid. I can't believe I was thinking like that. But it'll happen again. But what's happened is you've went through the ABC again. You've had your activating event. You've not gotten a text back. Your belief is that this person has hated you now, that you've done something wrong, that this is now all your fault, that this is on you, that you're the person, that you're the one that's created this huge problem, you've affected everyone, and you are such a bad person for hurting the people that you love. And then C, you start feeling sadness, you start feeling anxiousness, you start feeling that you're not enough, that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough, that even the people that love you most and should love you most don't love you. And whilst that just happens in the quick 30 minutes, an hour, and it causes so much pain, none of that is true. You've just put yourself through half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of complete irrational thinking. I mean, this person has decided to be with you. If they're your wife or your husband, they've decided to spend the rest of their life with you. So something that's happened over a text or over a phone call or something that's happened over a minute or 2 minutes isn't going to make them hate you, isn't going to make them not want to speak to you ever again. Let's say for worst case scenario that you did say something that annoyed them and you are getting the silent treatment. To think the worst is that this person's going to leave you, that this person hates you now, that you are the worst human being in the world, that you are unlovable, is irrational. That's irrational thoughts. Because most of the facts point towards the fact that that's not true. That this person actually loves you, that this person is with you. So the irrational thoughts there, it completely fucked with your mind. It completely fucked with your perspective. And it made you act in a way that, more than anything, had a huge impact on your mental health and your happiness. More than anything else, and more than the effect that it had on anyone else, and any future implications that it may have, the effect that it had on your happiness is something to just be aware of. Because why let assumptions, things that you don't know are true, whether these things are put into you because of society, whether they're put into you because of your personal beliefs, whether they're put into you because you're just assuming the worst every time. Why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you doing that to the people that you love? So challenging these things is important. But it's difficult because we constantly have internal chatter in our brain. There's constantly something talking to us in our mind. And if these are constantly negative, then we start having what we call mental health issues, right? So we've discussed that a couple of times, but having negative thoughts all the time is a recipe for mental disaster. It's a recipe for you not believing in yourself anymore, and for all your insecurities to come up to the surface. And whether they portray themselves in an obvious manner of you just being a shy, insecure person, or whether they portray themselves in a manner where you're just hateful towards other people, it's a recipe for mental disaster. So we want to challenge all our negative automatic thoughts. Now, they can come from the simplest of things. Let's give an example here. Racism, homophobia, sexism, all these things. A lot of these are portrayed by ignorance, or are made by ignorance and insecurity. It's not understanding the person that's in front of you. And because you don't understand that person, your automatic thought is that they cannot be better than you. This thing that you do not understand, that you do not know, cannot be more successful than you. Because for some strange reason in your head, there just isn't enough for everyone. And if there isn't enough for everyone, then I have to fight someone. I have to put myself in a group to strengthen myself and fight the other groups that are trying to take away from me. And things like racism, sexism, homophobia, all these things, what they do is that they feed your internal insecurities. They feed your internal fight for, have I made it today? Have I done what? Have I reached my motivations, my aspirations? Because if you have, you wouldn't really be caring about anyone else. Your thoughts wouldn't be negative automatically about anyone else. But even when it comes to ourselves, and when it comes to dealing with ourselves, we have what we call negative automatic thoughts about ourselves, about how we deal in certain scenarios, about our beliefs and what we do. So there's a few different types of negative automatic thoughts, and I want to discuss a few with you guys. The first type of negative automatic thought is the all or nothing, the black or white thinking. The if I don't do this perfectly, then everything has gone wrong. The if I fuck up one aspect, then the whole thing is completely fucked up. All or nothing, black or white thinking. Oh, and there's my dog Luna saying hello to everyone. But all or nothing, black or white thinking is when we believe that because one small aspect hasn't gone as well as we want it to go, that every single aspect of whatever we're doing is going to go wrong. Let's give an example of that. You're at your work, and you get an email or a call that something's gone wrong. You've been working all week towards something. You've worked really hard to ensure that everything's there, that everyone's working on time, that everything's working on time, and you get a call or an email that something's went wrong. And your head just collapses. And you just go, well, I fucked it. I've completely and utterly fucked it. I've done everything so well, but this one small thing has made me such an absolute failure that I am not capable of doing this job, that I don't have the skill set needed of doing this job, just because one thing went wrong. I'm personally incredibly guilty of this. When something goes wrong within my work, and I work in management, so when something goes wrong within a project or some sort of development aspect that I'm trying to do within the business that I'm working in, and something goes wrong, my brain just takes me to the worst of places, and it makes me think that I'm not capable, and it goes to, yep, you're too young, yep, you don't have the experience, yep, you've just fucked it, you've bitten off more than you can chew, and you're now finally getting caught out, and everyone's gonna see you for what you are, and everyone's gonna know that you're not capable of doing what it is that you want to do. But it completely forgets about the fact that there's a couple of things that have been done that week that have went perfectly. A couple of things that were done month before that have went perfectly. A couple of things that, the positives that are happening in the business, the positives that are happening in my life. When one day goes wrong, when I have an argument with my other half, I start thinking of all the bad things. Every single bad thing that she may have done to me, and somehow it's always the worst of things. It's always something that was meant. But when you take a minute, it's not the case. When you take a minute, it's not the exaggerated, it's not the black and white anymore. When we were talking about the example when you call your other half and they don't answer, and your anxious thoughts take over, and you start getting incredibly nervous, incredibly scared, and incredibly sad that they don't want to talk to you anymore, that they don't love you anymore. Just because of a text, just because of a late text. Maybe that person is going through maybe your other half is going through a personal thing right now. Maybe they're just sad. And the sadness has taken over to a point that they can't even bring themselves to talk to you. Maybe in their head, they don't want to make you sad as well and bring their problems onto you. With that whole thing of don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge a scenario just by the trailer. So your all-in-white thinking it's mindfuckery. It really is mindfuck. Negative automatic thoughts are all mindfuckery. It's your brain telling you that you're just not worthy every time a small thing happens. It's your brain telling you that you should just give up every time a small thing happens. So that's your black and white, all or nothing thinking. Very dangerous. But a different negative automatic thought is catastrophizing. And catastrophizing is assuming that something is going to go wrong. And if it does go wrong, then that's it. That's the end of that. And putting so many barriers for things that you're trying to do, for things that you're trying to achieve, for your hobbies, for yourself, for your life. So if I don't do well in this, then I'm going to fail in everything. Get kicked out of everything and be a failure for the rest of my life. If I don't get my act together soon, I never will. If I don't go to the gym 2 or 3 times next week, that's it. Never going to get fit, never going to go to the gym. Good example with that. When someone is in an abusive or a toxic relationship, and the person that's abusing them, or just even within their own thoughts, but usually it is implied and kind of battered into their own head that you're never going to do better than me. You're never going to do better than what you have here. You're never going to be happier than with me. If you leave me, you'll never find, no one else will love you. So you start to think, well, if I split up with my partner, if I split up with this person, then I'm never going to find love. Then I'm never going to be loved. That's a negative automatic thought. You think the worst is going to happen if you do something that should make you happy. It's not taking that leap of faith. It's not trusting in yourself. It's not being secure enough to say, well, even if I found the love for myself, even if this person doesn't love me or that person doesn't love me, but other people do. But the main thing is that I have found the love for myself. If you're going for a presentation or an exam, and you sit there and you catastrophize. I really find it hard to say the word catastrophize. And when you think the worst is going to happen, and you go, well, if I fail this, I'm going to fail everything else, and that's the end of that, and I fucked it. I'm never going to graduate. I'm never going to get the job that I want. And even if sometimes when you do fail something, and your brain just goes, well, that's it. I mean, that's more all in or all out, black or white thinking. When you fail something and go, I'm never fucking failing. I'm never passing. I'm always going to be a failure. I'm never going to become what I aspire to be. I'm never going to make anyone proud. Just because of one minor setback. Setbacks are there to be learned from. You need to learn from every single mistake, from every single tumble, or you are very basically giving up on yourself. And when you get to the point where you have given up on yourself, challenge your thoughts, challenge why you've given up on yourself, because there is something inside of you. There 100% is something inside you. When you're thinking hateful things towards a group of people, think why. Why am I even bothering? Why am I bothering with hate? Why am I interacting with hate? Why am I becoming a hateful person? It's mindfulness. It's challenging yourself. It's knowing that you are the master of your own mind. That if something happens, you can 100% find a solution for it. You can 100% start over again. Life has many options. We do seem to look at the ones that are right in front of us, the ones that have been handed to us. And sometimes they're not the best ones for us. Sometimes they're not the ones that are going to bring us happiness or bring us power. And when I say power, I mean power over our own mind, power over ourselves, to control ourselves. To be able to take that minute from your natural first instinctive thought that may be good, but sometimes is incredibly bad. Take that minute, challenge that thought, and think, is this really what I think? Is this really what I want to think? Is this really how I want to behave? Is this the feeling that I want to have after this? Fortune telling. Fortune telling is another type of negative automatic thought, but that's when you actually think, I know exactly what that person's thinking, and they're thinking, like, I hate him. They're thinking that they hate me. They're thinking that I'm a bad person. I just know it. I can see it in their eyes. Or I've seen those two people talk about me, and I know they're talking about me because they're sitting whispering there in the corner. There's no way they're having a personal conversation. That's 100% something to do with me. It's very likely not true. But you've just made your own assumption in your own head that two people are sitting and gossiping about you. I predict that if I say something about this, then I'm going to get into a fight with someone. And if you're someone who doesn't like altercations, you have to realize that this is also a negative automatic thought. There's my bloody phone going off. But yeah, fortune telling and thinking that, predicting that if you have a conversation with someone about something that's going to make you happy, or something that they're doing that's upsetting you, that if you say this, they will find me acceptable, they will hate me, they will think I'm the worst person, this is going to end really badly. But then when you actually have that conversation, you find that they were completely understanding. Yeah, I can see where you come from, and I can see how this annoys you, and I'm sorry. But in your head, in your own head, before this happens, you think, this is going to turn into a big argument, we're going to fight, someone's going to storm off, and there's no way that I can have this conversation with them. In relationships, sometimes you find that when you keep things inside as well, whether that's friendships or love relationships, when you don't tell the other party in the relationship how you feel and are not honest with them, you lose out on so much. You lose out on that sense of freedom to be yourself around them, and it becomes a burden to be yourself. You feel that it is a burden to be you, whether that's for you, whether that's for other people, and you start chipping away at yourself again. You start losing the sight of who you are. A lot of people out there are living to please, and they have no idea who they are. They are living to work, or they're living to make someone proud of them, or they're living to make money, and they've completely lost sight of who they actually are. You cannot tell me that we are all the same, and we are all made to search for money and power and getting the best material things, and that's just life. That's what we do. We should be proud of each other, of being successful in terms of fame and money. That cannot be the case. It cannot just be all about us. Mindfulness isn't just all about being mindful about yourself and just taking care of yourself. It's also being mindful about your effect on other people. And the way that you treat other people will always come back and haunt you. It will always come back and bite you. Don't think that you're a mindful person when you go, I am number one and I need to take care of myself. And that's just that. Taking care of me means mindfulness. Telling this person to fuck off when I actually owe them something because I need to take care of my mental health is isn't mindfulness. Sometimes you do need to take some time off for yourself, but you also need to understand that there's other people around you. You are in a society filled with other people, filled with family and friends and people that look up to you. And that might not be fair, but it's life. And the best thing that you can do is just be mindful of that. Make the best that you can out of it. There's no point of trying to fight it to the point where you're just stressing yourself out. You're not getting anywhere. You're stressing everyone around you out. But again, going back to the main aspect, stressing yourself out, because it's energy. When you're stressed, you're just a ball of stressful energy. A really bad one when it comes to negative thoughts is sort of the pessimistic and negative bias view on yourself. So this proves what I suspected all along. This small thing proves that I was just, I knew I was stupid. I knew I couldn't do this. And this little thing not going right, that proves it. That whole aspect of, if something bad's going to happen, it's going to happen to me, so I better stay in. Because nothing good ever happens to me. Which isn't the truth. I'm never going to get out of this. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Pessimistic views that just come up. Your beliefs. These are basically your beliefs when you're triggered about something. They're your beliefs when you're having that emotional, irrational reaction to something that has happened to you that day. Or in your life, or in your personal journey. And because that triggering thing has happened, then you somehow think, well, that's it. These negative thoughts come in and they become your beliefs about the event. And because your beliefs are so negative, you start feeling so sad, so anxious, so depressed. So what do we want to do now? Okay, so we know these negative thoughts, right? We know that these negative thoughts do exist. But what are we going to do with them? Well, we need to challenge them. And that's basically what CBT is. CBT is a therapy that allows us to challenge our negative automatic thoughts, our negative beliefs that happen after an event, so that we can challenge our thoughts and feelings. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. There's a couple of therapies out there that look at cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT. The first one is focusing on how your feelings change. So when you have the activating event and you start having your negative beliefs, write down what the event is. So write down your A. Write down your B, which is what belief do you have about this event. So let's say, for instance, you've got a party to go to, right? And the activating event is being invited to this party, or the party's coming up. You've said yes, and now you actually have to get up and go, and you're now sitting in your bed, withering away, thinking, why the fuck did I say yes? I know that I cannot go to this, and it's just going to be a shit night. What is the point of even trying? So that's your belief about it, right? Then that is going to make you feel sad, because you're going to feel that everyone's going to hate you. You're going to feel nervous about it. So that's your consequences. Write that down as well. So write your A, your B, and your C. And then write down how you're going to feel if you hadn't said yes to the party, or once the party's over, or once you have a good time. So think about a different aspect. So let's say, for instance, you start thinking about, right, okay, so if I go and I actually do find someone that I talk to, or that I get on the pool and I start having a great time and they're playing amazing music and I'm just having these are my people. This is the best party that I've ever been to. How are you going to feel then? So instead of feeling that you're nervous and that you're anxious and that you're sad because you think that no one's going to like you, you start feeling happiness. You imagine that feeling of happiness, that feeling of, you're buzzing. That feeling of you're so excited and so happy and are just content with life, in the music, plugged out of the world. How does that make you feel? Now, let's say, for instance, you're going in for a presentation in your work, and you're so nervous, you're so scared about it, right? You think that you're going to fuck it up, and because that's your belief, you're incredibly nervous about it. That you're going to sweat and everyone's going to see your sweat, and it's just not going to look nice. So you start thinking, well, how about after the presentation? Or if during the presentation, people start actually interacting with me, and I start feeling light, that lightheadedness goes, that weight on my shoulders starts lighting, and I feel better and I can interact with people and I feel confidence coming again. It's just that feeling of confidence. You start remembering feelings. So it's actually trying to kind of tweak your thoughts about your feelings. Because as much as it is that changing your thoughts and changing the way that you think can tweak your feelings, but that's kind of the difference between mental health and mental illness. When you feel a certain way and that feeling comes before your thought, when you feel sad before you even know what you're feeling sad about, when you feel sad before you even think, and you're just on a very, very high level of depression, or a high level where you're just nervous and scared, and it's a phobia now. It's not even anxiety, it's a phobia of life. Then that's a kind of a different aspect. That is something that I think neuropsychology deals with. That's kind of changing your emotions through hypnosis and stuff like that. What we're talking about here is a much more bearable level of feeling of sadness or feeling of scaredness, of anxiety. So when we talk about thinking about how you would feel if this doesn't go the way that you think it will do negatively, if it actually goes positively, or after it's finished, when you go and you've done your bit and then it's finished and you're like, oh, I'm glad I did that. You know, when you go to the gym and you're hating going to the gym, you're hating the going up and going to the gym, but once you're at the gym and when you leave, you just feel so good about yourself. You've done it. Think about that feeling. Concentrate on that positive feeling, not the negative feeling. The second technique that I want to discuss in CBT is the chew it over and act normal technique. Now, we've discussed evolutionary perspective of psychology, that fight or flight senses kick in sometimes at the wrong times. So your cognition can trick you into thinking that something's dangerous or angering, or a problem, when it's not. You know, like when your dog starts barking at the postman or your neighbour who's really nice, they think that they're doing something good. They think that they're protecting you. And in your head, sometimes that happens as well. You think that you're doing something because it's right, but you're actually not. You're taking a toll on yourself and on other people and other things. So sometimes sending signals back to the brain that everything's okay, that everything's fine, that there's nothing dangerous, there's nothing to be worried about, and that you can do this by doing things that you usually wouldn't do in dangerous situations, or when you're angry, or when you're in that fight mode. So for example, chewing gum. That's something that everyone's kind of been told about when they're nervous. Chew gum. Why? Because it makes you salivate. It makes your brain think you're eating. You're about to eat something. So at that time, you're not fighting. You're about to relax. You're about to eat. Everything's good. You can smile. Smiling's a tough one when you're really upset, because it's changing a mindset, and a lot of the time it's easy to fake a smile. It's not properly doing something where your head's going, I am actually doing this. One of the best ones, and it's basically meditation, is your breathing. So when you take deep breath, taking those deep breaths makes your body more relaxed. You know, if you're feeling tense and your shoulders are tight and you start breathing deeply in and out, you realize that everything just kind of relaxes, because that's something that you wouldn't do in a fight or flight. You're usually, your adrenaline's up, you're ready to run, you're ready to fight, your breathing's hard, you're keeping you're trying to give your body as much oxygen as possible, you're trying to not take as much time in doing stuff, your body's just much more quicker. And when you challenge that by taking deep breaths, it calms you right down. So that's that sort of chew it over and act normal. When you act normal, it sends signals back to your brain that everything's okay, everything's fine, everything will be alright. There's nothing dangerous, there's nothing bad, just take a moment and think about it again. The last one is what I think is the most sort of popular one, if you would say so. And it's the sort of assumption versus logic. Now, it's very similar to the first technique that we spoke of, which is the focus on how the feelings change, where you write your ABC down. You write your activating event, your triggering event, you write your belief, and you write the consequence and how it makes you feel, the sadness that it makes you feel. Then you go back to the belief, and you challenge that. You start using logic. So let's say, for instance, I'm not wanting to go to this party because everyone's going to hate me and I'm just going to look like an absolute moron. I'm going to look like an absolute idiot. And I'm going to sweat and I'm going to look like a sweaty bastard and I'm going to be smelly and everyone's just going to think I'm a dickhead and it's just going to go awful. So that's your belief. Now, sit and challenge that. Why? Why would people hate me? I've got friends, I've got people that love me. When I talk to them, we have a good time. So why does this have to be any different? I don't usually sweat that much in front of people where they go, oh, you're sweating that much. So why would I sweat then? Why does it have to be a bad night? There's nothing to say it is. It's all my good friends that are going there and some other people that I don't know. And if worse comes to worse, I can just hang about with the people that I know. So why do I have to think the worst? You just keep challenging your thoughts. Why? Why do I think that I am gonna fail just because one small aspect didn't go correctly? And you start thinking, well, I did that other thing right, that went right, why can't this go right? And you start just rationing and rationalizing your thought process and thinking, this isn't a catastrophe. I really struggle with that word. This has been such a difficult episode. But yeah, it's not going to be such a bad thing. I don't understand why my brain is telling me this. And once I challenge it, then maybe it's not going to be that bad. So we've discussed negative automatic thoughts. We've discussed ABC. We've discussed how we should challenge these thoughts. It's all about being mindful of your thoughts as they come. Start off with the ABC technique. Write your activating event, your triggering event down when it happens. So when you start feeling bad, when you start getting the really bad thoughts, the heartaches, the heart pains, just get a pen and paper, right? And just write what the activating event was. What is it that started all this? Okay, then write what your belief is about what's happening and what's going on and how this is going to affect you. And then write how this has made you feel. Has it made you feel nervous? Has it made you feel sad that you can't do this? Why is it that you care? And what has that care led to? Once you've done that, just challenge it. Just look at that bit of paper and challenge the challenge the belief, and try and see if you can change your feelings. If you can think of how this can go right, not how this can go wrong. If you can do that, then you are on the path of training your brain to not have negative automatic thoughts all the time, to think that there is another way, that there is another journey, is another path here, right? So I'm going to leave it here today. This topic, I mean, I wish I could talk about it again and again and again, and I hope that I can come back to it in another episode in the future. But we're going to move on to other things, hopefully, in the next episode. But do look into CBT more. It is amazing, and it has been working to treat sort of depression and anxiety, and people are using it. The best thing about it is that it's self-therapy. For people that don't like going to therapists, that maybe can't afford therapists, in countries that don't offer free health, we're lucky here that we can get a therapist through the NHS, but I know that it's not the case in everywhere. So it's a good technique. It's self-therapy. Try it out, look into it, be mindful, take care of yourself. Before we go, we're just going to do our 2 minutes of sort of guided meditation. And I do apologise because my voice is kind of going, so it's probably not going to be the best. But let's hope it relaxes you. So if you just focus on your surroundings, if you just sit down and focus on your surroundings, what is it that you're touching right now? Are you sitting on a desk? Are your elbows supported by the desk or by arm supports? Are you sitting down where your bum's touching the ground or the floor or the chair? Are you lying back where your whole back is just supported by your mattress? Feel your body make contact with the physical objects around you. Listen out for the noises that are all around you. Everything that you may be able to hear. Just let it come to you. You don't have to chase after a certain noise. Just let the noises come to you. Can you smell anything? What can you smell? Again, don't go searching for anything. Just let it come to you. If you slowly close your eyes, if they're not shut already, and just start your breathing into your stomach. If you count your breathing, 1 in and 2 out, 3 in, 4 out, and so on. Feel every breath going through your lungs into your stomach, through your nose into your lungs, into your stomach. If you slowly just open your eyes again, just give yourself a moment to see how you feel. If you feel a bit more relaxed, a bit more grounded. Guided meditations are amazing, and I would highly recommend, if they don't bother you or activate some sort of traumatic or bad experience in your mind, to give them a shot. One of the great apps out there is Headspace. We are not sponsored by them. We just really love the work that they do. I would recommend to download Headspace and just give yourself 5 minutes every day of guided meditation. Hopefully I will be putting some episodes of guided meditation out in the future. But until next week, I'm going to leave you guys here. Make sure to stay mindful. Make sure to take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you. Be mindful of your energy. and challenge your evil thoughts. They are nothing but thoughts, and you can beat them. Today you will beat fear.